Nick is back, and he's not. Nick, if you're not, well, okay, I take it back because I was going to say if you're not behind bookshelves, how do we know you're Professor Nick? But you're
Yeah,
kind of
there's
behind
books. There's a books
bookshelves.
behind me, as well as various other
Yeah.
mementos and things of my mother's.
Files. So if you're not watching the podcast, you probably should just to check out where Nick is. He's not in his usual professor setting. I love how people just call you Professor Nick now because they're just like, he has so many books. They're tennis
Yeah,
books, so it's
the
fine.
thing is, the books that you see behind me in my usual setup are actually not even half my book collection.
Nick, that is a lot of books. That is a lot of books. I mean, I have a lot of books too. They're just not in frame when I'm recording from what used to be my old setup. For people who have been watching our podcast, you would have noticed that I've changed my setup. This is going to be my new setup as long as the internet stays the same and is good, which so far so good, fingers crossed. But this is my new office setup. I just needed separation from my home to office. So I have a new office setup. Yay, Ground Pass has an office space. Yay. And this is also where I'm going to be shipping out our merch, which I'm
Hey,
wearing. Nick, yours is
awesome.
in the mail. So yours is going to be coming soon.
We could twin
Yay.
on the podcast
And
with
then you
our
can be
with
wearing
our
the merch too. Yes. Yes, we can totally twin. But yeah, welcome, guys. Welcome to another episode of Ground Pass. We are going to be recapping the semifinals and looking forward to the finals of the singles draw. We're also going to be recapping the women's doubles finals and then looking forward to the men's doubles finals. So we have a lot to go get into, and we're going to get right into it. Starting with the semifinals recap. Now, Nick, I understand time zones. It's been crazy. I think the US Open is one of the toughest for you to watch and keep up with, especially with the
um
night sessions.
night sessions are the only things I can't watch. It's nowhere near as bad as Australia, where I can only watch the night sessions, and even then, that depends on work. So
Yeah.
literally, I can watch everything up to the night session, so it's not horrendous. But yeah, because the US Open puts both women's semi-finals on the night session, it means that 3 out of 4 of the semi-finals every year I would have to lose sleep over to watch. So I did try and watch highlights of the two women's semi-finals. I haven't been able to see the second men's semi yet, but so I've got an idea of sort of how it went down and some of what was going on, and it's just you don't always miss like the momentum. You don't always get the momentum shifts you kind of feel in a match as it happens in the same sort of way. So it's not the same
Yeah.
experience, but yeah, so I've got the gist of it. And I will say this, both women's semi-finals were really, really good. Like, I'm so glad. I think if you had a night ticket to Ash, I don't know if it was worth quite as much as you would have paid. We talked about this on the last episode I was on, but you definitely got a lot of your money's worth from it to go there. Like, I think there were two absolutely fascinating matches for different reasons. Although I have to say, like I've seen in like the rundown that we did, like your preference, and it surprised me a little bit because I thought it'd be the other one.
Really? Okay. So let's get into it match by match. And you are correct. If you had a night ticket to the women's semifinals on Ash, you got your money's worth. Now, thousands of dollars money's worth? I don't know. I don't know. It's worth what it is to different people, but I will say the tennis was phenomenal. And let's start with the first match, which was Aryna Sabalenka versus Jessica Pegula. And I think you're insinuating that that this was an awesome match and this is the one that I think was the better match. I think it was the better match. I think it was the better quality match in terms of the tennis of it. And also, I am just so fascinated with this relationship that Aryna Sabalenka just has with Americans in general right now. It's just her against the Americans, and it's been her season. It literally has been her season. It started with Madison Keys, then it was Coco Gauff at Roland Garros, then it was Amanda Anisimova at Wimbledon, and here she is against Jessica Pegula and the crowd at at the US Open, and Jessica Pegula came out swinging. Now, I think when no, you know what it was? I did the semifinal preview with Mitch, and I had said Jessica Pegula hadn't met a seed yet in her run to the semifinals. And I was worried that she hadn't been challenged yet. And would she actually have the level, or how was she going to show up against Aryna Sabalenka? I just didn't know. She showed up. Like, she just knew what to do. And I think it might have shocked Aryna a little bit, but she played so well. And Aryna Sabalenka just, you know how she has that face when she
Yep.
gets frustrated?
We see it a lot.
If you watch Aryna Sabalenka play tennis, you know the face I'm talking about. She just gets this face where she just like she just does the thing where you just can tell her entire frustration is just on her face of why she's not winning, because she's tall and she's big and she's strong. Why is the ball coming
Yeah,
back?
that is the question that Aryna Sabalenka asks
We
a
love you,
lot.
Aryna. We
A
love
lot.
you.
Like, I get that sense with her. I was like, that shouldn't have come back. Why has it come back? We've got to do this again.
We're going to do it again. It came back. But yeah, no, it was a very great cat and mouse game. And the test, I think, was going to be how long was Aryna Sabalenka going to be able to hold her calm? Because we saw at the French Open and a little bit even at Wimbledon how she lost it like very quickly. And when she does that, she does lose her tennis as well. And she held it as long as she could. She held it as long as she could, but eventually the racket went. Even on Jessica Pegula's side, the racket went as well. And she lost the first set. Jessica Pegula took the first set, and it got to the point where you're like, whoa, is Jessica Pegula about to upset the number one seed? And, it took, I think, everything Aryna had to get the match back. And it was a tougher match than I expected. I don't know. What did you expect coming into this
Um,
match?
so the thing is, Pegula up to this point, like, steadily has been trying to kind of keep up with Aryna. If we think about last year's US Open final, like Jessica Pegula fought like heck and lost 7-5, 7-5. And a similar thing happened in Miami at the final recently. And there was just a sense that Sabalenka knows how to deal with Pegula. And so I was expecting something similar to happen this time. And so I was very pleased to see that Pegula won a set against Sabalenka, which I think is the first time she's won a set against Aryna, and played really well in that first set. So yeah, I was kind of like, okay, this could be interesting. I think what I found was in the second set, it reverted to type, and Sabalenka was the one kind of dominating. Like, that set
Mm,
could have been 6-love had Pegula not fought like crazy to hold serve for most of it. Goes an early breakdown, could have got broken in
yeah.
the next couple of service games that she had, and that set could have been well over, and Aryna would have had crazy momentum going into a third. But I think that helped make the third set what it was, which was um, a lot more like Aryna breaks early and then spends the rest of that set kind of doing the opposite to what happened in set two, which was she was the one trying to fend off Jess, and that was fascinating to see, because I don't know if you've seen this, Pagula's put out a photo on social media of her with a honeyjuice going, trying not to think about the fact that I only dropped 4 points on serve and still lost
Yes.
the third set, and or something along
Yeah.
those lines. And like first of all, it's just great from Jessica Pegula that like she's got a sense of humor about these things. Underrated personality is Jessica Pegula, and so like that one's all like, can really hold it off. So I'm thinking about sort of your perspective on which was the kind of the better match. Or the kind of the match it was. I think this was the one with where the result was in question right up until the end. It felt like Pegula could break back even when Aryna eventually served it out. It was still a battle, and so it feels like now Pegula's got a step closer, and now it wouldn't surprise me if she wins next time, wherever it is. It's probably going to be somewhere in the US. It could be Indian Wells. It could be Miami. It could be the US Open again. But I do think that Pegula's made a step forward. What I will say is that, yet again, Aryna Sabalenka proves she's the best in the world by showing that, I don't know if she was at her best on Saturday, but she won the match, and she kind of made sure she won the match. She dug in and refused to back off, essentially. And that's going to be
Yeah.
very, very interesting for her if she can maintain that come the final.
Yeah, no, totally. And, that's what I love about rivalries. And, I think if you're new to the sport, picking up on these sort of rivalries amongst players is really fun, especially when you can see the back and forth and the improvements. Like, some rivalries are a little bit too one sided, Taylor Fritz and Djokovic. It's really
Okay,
not going
I'm going to give you another more one-sided one.
it's one
Sinner and
sided.
de Minaur. That's worse.
That's worse. That one is actually that one we just never want to see ever. We pray that the draw never puts them together,
Thank you,
actually.
Felix.
But yeah, when you see a exactly. But when you see a rivalry like this, where you see improvements, each match that comes forward, you can't wait to see the next one. Because I totally want to see Pegula and Aryna again, because you're sort of like, Pegula she's now won a set. Can she finally get over the line the next time they meet? So that will be very, very interesting. So Aryna is now in the finals. Her spot is set. Who is she going to meet? The next match was against Naomi Osaka and Amanda Anisimova. And coming into this match, I will say I was leaning a little bit to the side of Amanda Anisimova, only because Naomi Osaka's run this tournament was so unexpected. I know she did well in Montreal. Like, I understand that. That was unexpected. Like, getting to the finals of Montreal based on the year she's had was not something I expected, but I think her new coaching change has really helped her focus her game and understand how she needs to play. So coming into the US Open, I thought, you know what? If she gets a few rounds in, that's a win, because her Grand Slam results this year, I think the best has been what,
But
second round?
I think she made third
I
round at Wimbledon.
think third, maybe. Yeah, so maybe the third round. So I wasn't expecting much. I was like, hey, if she gets into the second week, that's a win. I was like, if she gets to the second week, we have won. So for her to get to this spot, to get to the semifinal, yes, it was a nice surprise. And for me, for Osaka getting to the second week, that was going to be a win. So for her to be in the semis of the US Open, that was more than a win. And I just think Amanda Anisimova was playing so well. For her to beat Iga Swiatek, I just thought her level was just so great. So coming into the match, I was like, I think Amanda Anisimova has the edge here, but I also had that little sort of the sort of record that Osaka has, where if she gets to the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam, she never loses. She does have that record. So yeah, those were my feelings coming into this match. And then the match started, and it just, especially after you have literally just watched the very first semifinal, and then you go right into the second one, the level just wasn't the same. Like, it started pretty slow. Amanda Anisimova started really, really slow, and Naomi Osaka got ahead, but also she wasn't playing how she was playing before either, but she took the lead. She took the lead and she won the first set. And I thought, is this going to be sort of a weird reversal of Wimbledon, where Anisimova wins a very tough match and then loses the next one? But yeah, what did you think of the highlights that you saw?
Yeah, so it's interesting what you're saying there, because like for me, I would agree with your kind of assessment going into the match that it was going to be on Anisimova's racket. It was going to be down to how she performed, because there was a risk that like she played no notes almost perfect against Iga other than a couple of slow starts in both sets. And so I felt like if she continued that, she was going to be the favourite, because she was playing the best tennis I'd seen from anyone this couple of weeks. But if she kind of peaked too early, then Naomi was going to win. And it was weird for me because I checked my phone when I woke up and bleary-eyed looked at the scores and misread it, and I thought it said Osaka had won. And so I was very confused because I saw the three sets, like lost the first set, won the next two, and I was like, okay. And then Osaka won the first set, and I was like, well, I definitely misread something. So, which was it? I must have misread the who won the match. Yeah, I see. I think that one was an interesting match. That one felt a little bit more nip and tuck all the way through, because Osaka goes a break up in the first set, Anisimova breaks back, takes to a tiebreak. Osaka still wins the set, and then the reverse happens in set two. Anisimova goes a break up, Osaka breaks back, Anisimova gets the job done in the tiebreak, probably more impressively than Osaka did, and then Anisimova gets an early enough break in the third and actually keeps it despite a very tight last game. So for me, in terms of like a match which felt sort of tense all the way through, this one kind of fit that that billing. But once Anisimova got going, there was a sense that she was the better player as it went along. And
Yeah.
although it did get me thinking, like, when was the last time we had a Grand Slam final between, multiple Grand Slam champions, because Aryna's won 3 and Naomi's won 4. The last time that happened was actually US Open 2020, Azarenka against Osaka, because Osaka had won 2 slams and so did Azarenka. If you want to go back to the last time it was 2 women in a final where they've both won at least 3 slams, it's Serena and Venus at the Australian Open in 2017.
Wow.
So that's a
Yeah.
little bit of a stat for you that I didn't need in the end because Naomi didn't win the match. But yeah, I think if you like big hitting tennis, that was still a great match to watch because they both were going for it. You did feel like they were both trying to smack that ball hell for leather, but it did. Anisimova had a bit extra. She was returning a bit better, and there's definitely something about Amanda Anisimova this US Open. I feel like it. There's something about her which is weird because she kind of went a bit quiet in Canada and Cincinnati, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, if she wakes up, she's a factor, but I'm not seeing any sense that she is gonna.
Yeah.
I now need to rethink maybe my algorithm for how I decide who's looking good or not. But yeah, because I wasn't necessarily expecting Jess to play that well either. But yeah, Anna coming, and she's a big match player now, and that match proved it. So we'll get to previewing the final later, but it sets up something absolutely fascinating there. And this is very much, it does feel like this is the real breakout moment for Amanda Anisimova now, that, she's sustaining this success that she's getting, because we've had hints of it sporadically up to this point. And now she's kind of reaching her peak years now, I would say. She's the same sort of age as Iga, bit younger. That's going to be fascinating to kind of see. So I'm here for it, and waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, no, totally. And I kind of love what you said there really quick about, sort of switching your algorithm as to who's going to do well at a tournament. And I think that is so important for new fans following a sport, because I think a lot of times people try and figure out who's going to win, and they're constantly surprised, or either surprised or disappointed, where they're like, "Oh, I thought this or I thought that." And tennis is really tough sometimes when it comes to things like this, because especially a sport like tennis, where you do have the 4 Grand Slams that kind of anchor a season, but then there are all these tournaments in between, and different players put different weight on those different events. Take a Novak, for example. He puts all the weight on the 4 tournaments, the 4 Grand Slams. So he might go lose to Bio, for example, in Rome. He's not losing to him at Roland Garros. It's hard sometimes when you're a new fan to sort of judge those things, when you're like, oh my goodness, how could the Novak, lose to Alejandro Tabillo in Rome? Because then you're thinking, what's happening? But then you need to put the context of what's the tournament, who's the player, what importance are they putting on that tournament. But then there are also other factors, because you are completely right. Coming into this tournament, you could not have told me that Jessica Pegula would do well. She was just not looking good. She lost first round in Wimbledon, was not looking good in Canada or Cincinnati, and here she is in the semifinals of the US Open. But if you look at history, she just comes alive in New York. She's from Buffalo, New York. It's her home. Something happens to her in New York, and she always does well here. So those are the little things that you can kind of pick up on. And I think with Amanda, I almost wonder if Amanda, with her, she saw the draw and she was like, by hook or by crook, I will get to that Iga match. You know what I mean? Just to rewrite history, because of how devastating that match was for her. She
Have
just
you?
wanted to get there.
Did you hear about her pre-match prep for the Iga match?
That she watched the match?
Yeah, she watched the Wimbledon final back. That was her preparation for playing Iga.
Yeah.
I don't think she looked that far ahead, but I think she knew she had to face it when she got there.
Yeah.
And
I
that is
think,
just
I mean, I
impressive. Yeah.
think, I do actually think she did look at the draw, only because I talked to her in press in Cincinnati, and everyone's been asking her about this final. And in Cincinnati, she said it. She was like, I can't wait to play her again. Obviously, she didn't know what the draw was going to be in New York, but it's kind of crazy that at the very next Grand Slam, they were slated to meet if they, if they won their matches and got there at the end. But yeah, it's just impressive what she's done because there's just so many people in general, not just even tennis players or athletes. I just think there're just so many people in general who would have suffered a loss or a devastation like that and would have just crawled into a hole and just said, see you next year. And she didn't do
But we had
that. She kind of
indications
was
that
like,
she wasn't going to do that in Canada, because she got to the fourth
yeah.
round in Canada and she blew Raducanu away in one of those matches. And it was
But
like,
here's
yeah,
the
she didn't look
thing.
like a player who just suffered a devastating loss.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We almost had indications right after the final. Remember? I don't know if you follow her on social media, but I think they actually posted it places. Like I saw it in multiple places. But right after the final, there was like a photograph that came out of her like in a garden in England somewhere, just having like a smiley, happy time with her friends. Like if I had lost six love to anybody, you would not see me for months. I would disappear. I would go away. But here she was, with her runner up trophy, just smiling with her friends. And I was like, now that is the attitude to have. Like, that is a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
a sense
could
that she's
gush.
got like a really good perspective, and like a healthy
Yeah,
perspective on herself, an understanding of the big picture. Because like we know that Wimbledon final, she was not at her best,
yeah,
and um, Iga was playing really, really well, and it was just the worst combination to get. And she knows that she wasn't full control, and it wasn't that she came out and played badly enough herself. She just hit a mental and physical wall, and she couldn't control that. It wasn't like she came out and was really, really nervous or just didn't click that day. I think it's actually making a bit of a nightmare for Iga now, because I don't think she's ever played like average Amanda. She's played the worst version of Amanda, and she's played the best version of Amanda, and I don't think she's still got a read on what it's actually like to play Amanda yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they play a third time, which could be soon.
again,
Could be at the PTA finals.
it could be. And here's the thing again, rivalries. They're
Hmm.
awesome. Can't wait to see when they play again. I love that about tennis and these rivalries that it forms. Okay, let's get to the men because again, we're right at the half hour mark and we haven't even got to the men's semifinal. But let's get to the men's semifinals and we're going to start with the match that you watched and I didn't. I watched the replays of this, but you watched the whole match. And that is Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz won this match in straight sets. Carlos Alcaraz, our little drummer boy, our little sort of like he sees a butterfly and floats away, has gotten to the finals of a Grand Slam without dropping a set. Nick, what's going on?
I mean, he actually didn't look like. So I'm gonna clarify something here. I actually didn't watch it. I listened to it. So I was driving. I was on a 4-hour drive, and it started halfway through that drive. So I put the match on, and it covered me for pretty much the latter half of that drive. It was only like a 2-hour, 20-minute bit.
Yeah.
So I had BBC radio commentary from Russell Fuller, David Law, who also does the tennis podcast, and Annabelle Croft, who I don't think she does much American stuff, but she's a staple of British tennis broadcasting. She's mainly known for winning the Wimbledon Juniors in 1984 and never lived up to it as a tennis player, but
Mm.
she's a great broadcaster. Brilliant broadcaster, really gets the game and knows it. And she's very good at explaining the technical details of tennis, especially on the radio. So I felt like I was watching this match, and even if I didn't see necessarily the ball, like I got a real feel of what was going on with three different voices kind of going through it. And what seemed to happen was set one, you had Alcaraz break early, and then it was just a race to hold to the end of the set because it just wasn't making an impact. Djokovic breaks early in the start of the second, and then has one bad service game, and Alcaraz gets it back to 3-all. I think Djokovic was serving at 3-1, gets broken to 3-2. Alcaraz then holds for 3-3. And then the rest of the set is like Djokovic is just fighting to keep going and trying to just going hell for leather, trying to break Carlos and can't quite do it. Alcaraz gets stronger as the set goes on. We end up in a tie break, which ended up being chaos because like Djokovic is literally throwing himself after these balls from describing it. Like he's moving and running like he's Carlos Alcaraz and he's trying to be 23 again or whatever, Novak, because he knows that's how he needs to play to keep up with Carlos. I was sitting here going, if Novak hadn't had that bad service game in set 2, this would not have been straight sets. We would be one set all, we'd be like, is this the Australian Open all over again? And then the tiebreak, like Novak, who has a history of playing like winning tiebreaks, like he went a long time without losing tiebreaks or barely losing them, has now lost his last 3. To at minimum, I need to have a look and see if he lost it at Wimbledon as well. But he lost all 3 tiebreaks he played this US Open to Zachary Schweider, to Cameron Norrie, and now to Carlos Alcaraz. But that tiebreak, he goes a mini break down, plays an insane drop shot to get back on the mini break, and then Alcaraz double mini breaks him. Djokovic double mini breaks him back for 4-3, and it's like, is anyone gonna hold serve for this tie break? And then Alcaraz does, and then from that point on, Djokovic's body gives up, and he can't compete in the third. And that's basically what happened. It was a match where like Djokovic pushed Alcaraz for 2 sets and couldn't do it for 3. And maybe that would have happened. I don't know. I think if Djokovic won that second set, Alcaraz would have won the third. Djokovic might have had enough energy to get a 4th, and then 5th would have been tough. But that was, I think that energy dip was always going to cost Novak, and it was coming. The only way he could have got around it is maybe he won the 3rd set and then saved his energy for a 5th during the 4th.
Yeah.
This is a hypothetical match, but it didn't happen because he played that one bad service game, and that's all it took. It was such a fine margin. Djokovic is like beat everybody else except Sinner and Alcaraz now. I think this is the first time Alcaraz has beaten him on a hard court as well, so this is a big win for Carlos.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's like he wasn't as locked in because it's Novak, but he got the job done where he needed to, and he grew as the match went on, and he felt more confident. So that's kind of how I would summarize what happened. Carlos Alcaraz definitely is like steamrolling his way through, and he's grown a lot since that clay season. I think that match when Wimbledon's done something for him. The Wimbledon French Open, he lost the Wimbledon final. He's just got a sense of playing like a champ. Maybe it's the tough guy haircut. I don't know. But that's kind of what happened there. That's my read on how that went down. It's kind of solidifying that you've got Sincaraz, Novak, everybody else. But the trouble is, I don't know if much longer that's going to last from Novak's perspective, because I don't see him climbing up again.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because, you know, it's crazy to think, but it's 2 years ago now, and I believe I said it on the podcast a year ago, but after Novak won in 23, because I was there. I was actually in the stadium when he won in 23, and went into the Australian Open in 24, and that's when our friend Sinner won the Australian Open for the first time. And it's also, he beat Novak on the way to that. Mm-hmm. And I remember writing down, and I was like, you know what? I was like, that's it. I was like, Novak's not going to win another Grand Slam. And I kept it to myself. I didn't like broadcast it anywhere. It was just something I marked down, and I just wrote, I was like, this is it. And I remember when we started the podcast, I remember saying it at the time, and I was just like, hey, this is just something I'm thinking about, but I don't think Novak's gonna win another Grand Slam. I know we didn't have as many listeners as we do now, so guys, don't freak out. It's okay. But I've just had this thought since the Australian Open 2024 that Novak's just not going to win another Grand Slam because there is Sinner and Alcaraz. And he has had Carlos's number for a while. And I think it's only because Carlos gets so nervous around him he just gets so emotional. And I think it's because he just holds him in so much respect. Like he's just like, oh my God, I'm playing Novak. And he just becomes a puppy. And, he doesn't know how to handle it. And especially on hard court where it's never been his strongest surface, that just comes out more. I think on the natural surfaces, it's his strong suit and he can just use his abilities better there. But now, especially with this win and with Carlos just getting stronger, I just don't see where Novak goes from here. Because, guys, he's not beating Sinner. Is no. Unless Sinner, sprains his ankle on the court, he's just not beating Sinner. Because Sinner is baby Djokovic. And older Djokovic is not beating baby Djokovic. That's just physics. That's just the
No,
nature
if
of
if you
aging.
put if you put 2020, this version of Novak Djokovic we're seeing in 2025 against, how old is Sinner now? He's born in 2001, right?
24? Yeah, he's
Yeah,
24.
he's
He's 24.
24. So 24-year-old Novak Djokovic was the 2011 Novak Djokovic that we saw in like that kind of dominated all the Grand Slams and only lost one because Roger Federer played amazing, and I'm going to get that in there as a Federer fan. And he like if you put Djokovic 2025 against Djokovic 2011 Djokovic wins.
Yeah.
If you put 2011 Djokovic against 2025 Sinner, game on. But that's what we're dealing with right now, and I think that just to put that into perspective a little
Yeah.
bit is that it's age that's the problem
It's
here.
age. Yeah, age is a problem. And so it's interesting, and what you just said is basically what I got from the highlights of this match, is that I did see those nerves again with Carlos. I think the difference here, and I kind of posted about this as part of our preview for the match, where I was sort of like, Carlos never loses the same way twice. He'll lose one way and he never kind of does it twice. And I realize how he lost in Australia. It was very much a mental thing. And he kind of got into sort of that cat and mouse game with Novak, with the sort of like injury and like getting into, because he was leading and then he just lost it, from sort of like, is he injured? Is he not injured? Like, what's happening? And you could say, like, this match could have gone that way as well, the way Australia went. But even though you could see the nerves with Carlos and all of that, I just knew a little bit that he just wasn't going to lose the same way again. And you kind of saw that as the match played on here, where he just wasn't going to get entangled in that web again. It's interesting. I listened a little bit to Novak's press after the match, so it would be interesting to see what he does next year. He was talking a lot about, yes, he still wants to do the Grand Slams again, but he fancies his chances in a best of 3 against these guys versus a best of 5. So maybe he will open his calendar more to the best of 3 tournaments. Who knows? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
thought this was going to go ahead.
no, I was going to ask you a question, so you're about to give your opinion, so go for it.
Oh, I was going to say I thought this was going to be his last year. That's what I thought. So I guess it's going to be next year, or I'll just keep saying it till it's the next year, because I really did think this would be his last year, but I guess it'll be next year. Who knows?
No, I think he's too addicted to tennis to stop now.
Mm,
He will only stop playing tennis when his body tells him to stop, which is what happened to Roger. His knee never got
mm,
better. It's what happened to Rafa. He comes back after pretty much a year or 2 years off, a year off, 2 years off, whatever it was, and isn't the same, and has his wake up call against Djokovic at the Olympics where he just can't compete with him anymore. He has no way of competing with Novak Djokovic and is fighting to compete with everyone else. And at the moment, Djokovic is kind of competing with Sinner and Alcaraz. I do agree with him that on best of 3 he's got a chance. I definitely think that if it was a best of 3 with Alcaraz, he has a chance. If it's a best of 3 with Sinner, it might depend on surface and circumstance. Like that Wimbledon, was it Wimbledon or French Open? Like there was a match they played where it was 3 tight sets. 2 tight sets could be very different in that scenario in a best of 3. Like he could fancy his chance. If he gets a set, he's in it against Jannik Sinner. But in a Grand Slam, it's different. And so actually, it's like, using that best of 3 to build some confidence. What's going to stop Djokovic is his body. And I was thinking about this, that like Djokovic ran out of gas against Sinner in the semi-finals, and he ran in Wimbledon, and he ran out of gas against Alcaraz here at the US Open. At what point does he? Let's just say that something crazy happened, and neither Sinner or Alcaraz were in this US Open draw.
mm.
does Djokovic win it? Because on paper
Yes.
he does, because he beats everybody else. If his gas tank allows him to play 7 matches to win a tournament, because that's the thing. He's hitting the wall in the semis against guys who are better than him. What happens when he hits the wall against guys he usually beats? And that's when I think you'll start to see Novak thinking seriously about stopping.
Yeah.
Because let's say something crazy happens. Let's say Sinner's, somebody gets injured or, isn't allowed to play or whatever, like goes out early. Like Alcaraz has a complete brain fade in round 2 against Botic van der Zandschulp again. And Djokovic doesn't. Like he beats like last year. And does he win a semi-final against a Felix or a Taylor or Zverev? Like, and he's winning quarterfinals, but is he winning semi-finals? I think that's going to be an interesting test. And like, will that wall move further forward throughout the tournament?
Yeah.
That's when he's going to stop, I think.
Yeah.
But until then, he's the 3rd best in the world. And he said in his press conference, he's used to that from when his career started. Those of you who are newer fans, if you weren't with us in like nearly 20 years ago now, which is crazy, like 2007, 2008, 2009, Djokovic has been in this situation before in his career, but with Federer and Nadal. So at least it's not that much of a shock for him. Maybe it makes him feel young.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, speaking of sort of like what if something happens to the other two, is Novak winning a Grand Slam? Something happens to the other two, he's winning all of the Grand Slams, because the rest of the tour, I think, really, really needs to look in the mirror right now. Because my first question is, how did Novak Djokovic get to the semifinals? How? Taylor Fritz? Hello? How? How did he get here? Taylor Fritz. At the beginning of this tournament, he looked like he was going to die. There was I watched his early matches. I'm not exaggerating. Everyone go back and watch his first 2 matches. And I get it. Lerner Tien, Zachary Svida, they're new kids on the block. So I'm not even like, judging them. They've never been on these sort of stages before, playing on Ash, playing against Novak Djokovic. They're so new. But if you look at those matches, Novak Djokovic looked like he was going to pass out. Like it was rough. And I was like, is he okay? He looked like he was going to pass out. He looked like he was upset. He didn't want to be there. There was just so much going on. So how he got to the semifinals of a Grand Slam, Taylor Fritz, I don't know. Taylor Fritz, okay? Taylor Fritz, you need to look at the mirror when you're putting on your headband, okay? Taylor Fritz. Because it cannot just be 2 players that stop Novak Djokovic all the time. Because that's what is just happening. It's like he gets to semifinals and it's always he can't get past Carlos and it just, I think the rest of the tour just needs to look in the mirror and say, what's going on? Why, like, what do we need to do to get better? And then it also carries on to sort of like how Sinner has really dominated. Like I cannot tell you anyone except for Carlos Alcaraz who could have stopped Sinner from getting to the finals. I really can't. Like who was it going to be?
I mean, the entire nation of Canada had a go.
Oh, they really tried. Yay, Canada.
Sinner does not seem to like playing Canadians. He still wins, but he doesn't
really
seem to like
doesn't.
playing Canadians.
And this brings us to our second semifinal, which was Jannik Sinner against Felix Auger-Aliassime. Because coming into this semifinal, first of all, Felix Auger-Aliassime getting to this point, nobody, show me your draw. Nobody had this. Nobody had this at all. But he got here. And he has been playing such great tennis this tournament. Like, I really, truly hope that Felix takes such good things from this tournament and gets back to the top of the game, because having him in the top 10 would be so phenomenal. He's so great for the top of the game, and it would be so lovely for him to be playing like this. And he would be such a great addition. I would love to see it happen. But I mean, coming into this tournament, I was like, I don't see it. I really do not see his path. I do not see his path to beating Sinner. And for a set there, he proved me wrong. Like, he made this match fun. He really turned it around and he made it fun. The only problem was he couldn't keep it up. Couldn't keep it up for best of 5 sets. And this is where I kind of say everyone needs to go back to the drawing board, because there's just no competition for Jannik Sinner right now. I wish I could name one person in the draw, in the ATP top 100, that I would say, okay, that guy could beat Sinner. There's one person. His name's Carlos Alcaraz.
Do you mean now? Like right
Now,
now, this
yeah.
second?
Like right
Like
now.
not
Yeah.
not necessarily like ever.
No, 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 right now, like today.
Yeah, because that was a question I was going to follow up with, and like we've kind of discussed this before, like, oh, who could do it in the future, but they're not there yet now. So that's
Yeah.
a conversation we've had before. I guess like I guess it's kind of like this comes down to your philosophy of tennis in some ways, and sort of when you watch it. So I want to ask your opinion on this rather than sort of spout mine because I think it's kind of relevant to your point. So you're saying the rest of the tour need to look in the mirror. So are you saying that the majority of the tour, in theory, has the capability to stop Sinner, but they need to put the work in or on something? It's different things for different people. Or is it that they, no matter how hard they try, they are not good enough to stop Jannik Sinner?
I think they all have the capability of beating Jannik Sinner. They're just not trying hard enough. Because
Not trying
because
hard enough or trying the right things?
I guess it could be either or. It could be either or because it could be either or. I'm not sure because I just don't know the inner workings of people's teams, or so they might not be trying the right things in some cases. They might just not be trying hard enough in some other cases. And the reason why I say this, that they're just not trying, is because Jannik Sinner didn't pop out of the womb like this. 2 years ago, he wasn't like this. They were beating him. Medvedev had a winning head to head against him. So he became this person. So if he can become this person, they can become people who can beat this person by, I think, I think that's
Mm.
possible. I refuse to think that he's just this sort of like, as Bublik says, an AI that
Yeah.
just is made by robots and nobody can beat him. He wasn't like, he trained for this. He wasn't this person a few years ago. He got better. I listened to I'm gonna put a link actually in the description of this podcast of an interview that his coach Darren Cahill did with the podcast Served with Andy Roddick, and he talked about the trajectory of Sinner's sort of development and how he started and how he grew and stuff, and how, he kept losing to Novak at Wimbledon, and how he kind of turned around that head to head, and how he worked hard at it, and each year just became better and better and better. And it's work. You just have to put the work in, and I just don't think people are putting the work in. I mean, maybe I'm being too hard or what, but it just seems to me. And hey, there's some people, because I posted this on Blue Sky actually, and someone came back at me, someone who I love actually, who we go back and forth on Blue Sky a lot. And they were like, no, what are you talking about? Like, I just want Sinner and Alcaraz forever. Like, I just want them to be in finals forever and ever and ever. And I was like, that sounds horrible. At least for me. I love dominance. Like, I love rivalries that are dominant, but forever with no kind of someone coming in and like, causing a mess. That's tough. I I like that there is a Novak, that there is someone to sort of like upset the apple cart, that says, hey, you guys think you're cool and you're tough and you're like the best in the world. Well, I'm going to show you that I'm cool and tough too, you know? I just think that makes
Yeah.
sports more fun, and it shows the development, that it's not just samey all the time. I
I
love
think,
Carlos. I love Sinner, but
yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. Interesting, your point about Novak. He is the last person to upset the apple cart because he's the last person who stopped us having a Sincaraz final because he beat Carlos in Australia. And I was thinking about what you were saying earlier about that kind of thing. I think it's kind of a mixture of Sinner and Alcaraz are just special. They are a special kind of tennis player that nobody can match week in, week out. What you're looking for then is people who can do it on their day, like you see on the women's tour, where you've got at least three special talents at the top right now in Aryna, Iga, and Coco. But the rest of the tour on their day, not necessarily week in, week out, but on their day, can do something and can stop them. With the men's, it doesn't feel like that. It's all about Carson Yanko, special talent, and the rest of the tour can't do that. And I was thinking about, we're already getting nostalgic for the era of the big three, or the big four, if you include Andy Murray in there, which is literally just stopped, more or less. Like it
5 seconds
ended when
ago.
Rafael Nadal got injured for the last time. You could even argue, if you want to be pedantic, it ended with Roger Federer getting injured permanently. Back then, like during the sort of late 2000s, 2010s, first of all, we've already talked about Novak. He put in the work and he changed to the point of changing his diet to get to the level that Roger and Rafa were playing at in the early 2010s, in 2011. I referenced that earlier when he became that monster that basically made it a proper big three. But there were other players in the area. You had Andy Murray, who was constantly just nipping at their heels and made it a big four in 2012 and 2013 and 2016, even bit to 2015. I'll come back to Andy in a minute. But you also had Stan Wawrinka, who would occasionally pop up and beat at least one of them and win a title. And he won 3 Grand Slams, just peaking like unbelievably, and then he wouldn't win anything against them the rest of the year. You had Marin Cilic and Kei Nishikori able to beat them that one US Open that time. That's even not including the people who were week in, week out, like able to bother them, like David Ferrer, Thomas Berdych, Joe Wilfried Tsonga. Tsonga famously beat Djokovic, Murray, and Federer to win a Canada title. And then you've got Juan Martin Del Potro, who frankly was on that level, but didn't show it and showed flashes of it. Like those guys, you felt like, yeah, you had these 3 players who are like arguably probably, you could say it's the 3 greatest players of all time happen to be right next to each other. I would throw Borg and Laver in there as well. But they were together in their era and they were dominant in slams, but there were week to week players who could stop them or occasionally upset them even at a slam. So we don't have that scenario at the moment. So I do see your point about the tour. Like they're not doing what they can, and I don't know whether Sinner and Alcaraz that level of good that they're that far ahead. Maybe not. Probably not. They're probably as good as those guys were in their peak. What I would say though is we also have to take the physical aspect into consideration, which is why I want to go back to Andy Murray and Juan Martin Del Potro. Del Potro doesn't have more Grand Slams because he kept injuring something, usually his wrist. I think it's his knee that finally did for him, but he barely got a healthy season together very often. Andy Murray would be able to keep up with those guys for 2 years and then something in his body would break. He had to have surgery in 2013 after winning Wimbledon. He had to, and then that kind of meant he had a down year in 14, and then he wrecked his hip to get to world number 1 in 2016. And that's the other dimension in there, is there maybe if these guys are going to step up, like you're saying, they might have to risk breaking something in the process or actually physically break themselves in the process. I don't
Yeah.
know how comfortable I am asking someone to do that, but we'll have to see. There's potential in there. There is potential in this field, but it's kind of I think what you're looking for is what we had 10 years ago with these special players. I will say one more point: Sinner and Alcaraz in the final every single time. I am more than happy to have that for as long as we have that until someone else turns up, because that is always special, and I am hyped for another Sinner and Alcaraz final, which we will probably get to towards the end of our recording this podcast. But given the finals that we've seen and every Sincaraz match I've seen, apart from that Cincinnati one, which doesn't really count, that is actually special to watch when we get it. And I was thinking in terms of like, this big franchise where they just make movie after movie after movie, like Mission Impossible just stopped. Fast and Furious is on how many now? 10 or 11?
Yeah.
Star
So
Wars
many.
has 9 films, right? But you have
Yeah.
all these offshoots as well. Like these kind of Fast and Furious is probably the best example of that. Like that watching the men's tour at the moment is, I'm not a Fast and Furious fan, but a lot of people are. I am more of a Star Wars fan, but I appreciate those movies aren't necessarily best. But Mission Impossible, generally, you've got like good one after good one after good one, but they never made spin-offs. Like when Sinner and Alcaraz final happens, it's when that new Mission Impossible movie comes out, and you know it's going to be good, and you're going to enjoy it. But watching the rest of the men's tour feels like watching a spin-off that is okay, but it's not quite the same thing. And I think that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And I think both you and I would want to see that changed. They might make the odd good one, though. Rogue One was good
Yeah. Once in a
in Star
while.
Wars.
Okay. Okay. We spent so long just
Yeah.
recapping the semifinals, but That's what you get when you get Nick and Anastasia. And they were really great semifinals. There are a lot of storylines in there as well. And also that's why we have chapters. So you can just jump to where you need to go and come back and watch it later. You can take breaks and come right back. Okay, really quick. This part will actually just be a little quicker here. We're going to recap the women's finals. Gabby Dabrowski and Erin Routliffe with the upset. Winners of the women's doubles final at the US Open. They're champions for the second time. They've won it before. They defeated
last year or the year before?
The year before. They defeated Katrina Siniakova and Taylor Townsend to win the title. And it's kind of crazy how things happen. So at the beginning of the tournament, I was invited to interview Gabby Dabrowski. Very random. I was invited the morning to interview her in the afternoon. They were just like, hey, if you can make it, cool. And I was like, yeah, sure, I guess. Interview will be coming out later. It'll be part of our Meet the Player series. And because I was doing the Meet the Player series, I needed to get a lot of footage of her playing. So I watched a lot of their matches. And every time I watched their matches, it was on the brink. There were 2 matches they had where they were like straight sets and they were good. But then the others, they lost the first set and it just was not looking good. And I was like, oh my goodness. So they had to battle a lot to get to the final. So when this final came about, I was like, you know what? I know the favorites are Townsend and Siniakova, but it's going to be a tough battle because Gabby Dabrowski and Erin Routliffe have already been fighting all through this tournament. And I think they're just going to fight through the final as well. I still thought Townsend and Siniakova would come through. Nope. Gabby Dabrowski and Erin Routliffe, straight sets. They won that match. It was quite incredible. And happy and really, really happy for Gabby Dabrowski, who actually early this year, announced that she had gone through cancer treatment and she came back to start playing this year. And here she is winning a Grand Slam after making that announcement. It's just a really, really great story.
Yeah, it's a great story, and I know that she's just really, really popular. Which tournament was it you spoke to her at?
This one.
Oh, US Open. Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
US Open, yeah. The first day of the US Open. It was kind of crazy.
Cool. So Gabby, I think clearly she and Routliffe absolutely love working here. I think they started working together 2 years ago, but then it yielded that title. Look, we said, like, on the last show we recorded, the women's quarterfinals were stacked. Like, the semi-finals were all like top players doubles teams who'd won Grand Slams. It was always going to be tough for whoever won it. The fact is those 2 who've won at the US Open before, maybe not a surprise. Maybe we do need to look at them as being US Open specialists and the ones to beat every US Open when they come around, for as long as they play together. That being said, I'm still waiting. I was kind of hoping for a Taylor Townsend US Open title. And I'm still waiting, and I will keep rooting for that and waiting for that to see when it happens. If she stays with Siniakova, it's a really good prospect of it. Yeah, I'm not going to be bitter about it because I think Dabrowski and Routliffe have had a great story themselves and a great tournament and really fought for it. And that seemed like a really hard fought final, 4-4. You watched it, so you can tell me whether I'm wrong about it. But I will be overjoyed the day Taylor Townsend finally wins the US Open.
Yeah. No, it was a very hard fought one, but I think Routliffe and they were just battle tested. Like, they just had it. Their reflexes were just so ready, I think, more than Siniakova and Townsend. And I think Townsend's time will come. She will win the US Open at some point. And I think for her, even in her post-match speech, she was just so gracious and awesome, as she always is, always says the right thing. And I think for her, she already sees this tournament as a win. She has so many more new fans now. She's more popular than she's ever been. Her singles career is on the rise, did so well this tournament in singles as well. So I think she's taking this tournament as a win and moving forward. Like, she's excited for what's coming, for the rest of the year. And yeah, I think she's taking all the positives and she will win this tournament at some point. So that was great. That was a really fun match. And looking ahead to the men's doubles final preview, this is also kind of crazy. If you haven't watched the doubles tournament preview in total, I sat down with Will Buchek to talk about the US Open doubles preview at the beginning of the tournament. I would go back and just watch it. It's actually just a good primer for doubles in general to get to know the teams as they are. In that episode, I also put up photos of all the doubles teams, so you can actually just get to know them visually as well. I'll put a link in the description of this podcast to that episode as well. Why I'm laughing is we talked about two things in that. One of them was the strength of the British doubles program and how well the British doubles program is, and who should make the finals of the men's doubles but Neal Skupski and Joe Salisbury. Like, here they are in another Grand Slam doubles final, because they made the final at Roland Garros. We also talked about Neal and Joe's relationship because their new partnership this year. It's a partnership that I've always wanted to happen, but they were with longtime partners before who were not British. And I never understood that. They were in very, very successful partnerships. And I was like, but they're two very successful British doubles players. Why are they not in a Union Jack shirt playing together? And now it's finally happening. All I am asking is that they wear a Union Jack shirt. Nick, how do I make this happen?
Well, you do need to make that happen in the next couple of hours because they start the final starting. I can't remember what time it starts, but it is today.
In 2 hours.
Maybe we need to mail it to them with a Ground Pass logo on it, and we'll because I think it'd be easier for it to follow. It's a team that I'm very glad has come together as well. They're both Grand Slam pedigree players. I'm like, oh wait, Joe Salisbury's won the US Open a couple of times before, so he obviously really likes playing here. And they are very much the story of the tournament. I think they're the ones that we're rooting for a little bit, especially since Ceballos and
Granolas.
the other one's literally just gone. Sorry,
Granolas.
Granolas. Yes, why did that pop out my brain? Sorry, Marcel Granolas. They got their slam at the French Open, and that's been a long time coming. And I was so happy they got it, and I wanted them to win that one, especially since that was like the one that's kind of snatched away from them heartbreakingly before. This time, I think it needs to be Salisbury Skupski. It just seems to be clicking for them right now, and I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, the British media are getting behind them. They're very excited. It would be the first time since 1903 or something like that that an all-British team would have won the US Open.
Wow.
So, yeah, a long time ago.
Okay.
So, yeah, Reginald and Lawrence Doherty were the names, and they were the first two men to be able to win Wimbledon and the US Open in their careers, like anywhere. So, yeah, I think that would be a really, really cool story, and I really want to see that happen. But, if Ceballos and Granollers win, that's a sign that their partnership's finally reached its potential. But I'm like you, I like seeing lots of people being successful.
Yeah, no, totally. Because, this is a rematch of the Roland Garros final. Like, that is also so crazy. And in that preview that I did with Will Buchek, it's really funny because when we were talking about Ceballos and Granollers, we kind of dismissed them a little bit at this US Open because they've been going through injuries. So when we got to their names, because I brought them up and I was like, oh, Ceballos and Granollers, because they just won, Garros. And Will was like, oh no, they've been dealing with injuries, so who knows? Here they are in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Tennis. I love tennis so much because that's how it goes, guys. You dismiss someone because they're dealing with injuries, and then they make it to the finals of the tournament. I love this sport. It's really, really great. So I'm actually really excited for that one because, again, I've been rooting for Joe and Neal to get together as a team for so long, and they finally did it. They had such a rocky start to the season. They didn't automatically become the best team ever, and to now have made 2 Grand Slam finals is such a rewarding end to the season for them. Okay, let's wrap it up. Preview of the men's and women's finals. Nick, it's the end of the Grand Slam season. This is this is it. We did it. I know it's kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy, but here we are wrapping up, doing our preview of the men's and women's finals. The women's finals will be first. That is today. It's later on today at 3 p.m. Eastern. I hope I'm not lying to you, but I think that's what
p.m. Eastern because it's 9 p.m.
Is it 4 p.m. Eastern? Okay. 4 p.m. Eastern. Aryna Sabalenka and Amanda Anisimova, which is a rematch. It was a semifinal at Wimbledon that got very spicy. Got very, very spicy.
Did. And the way, and like, oh my word, there's so, like, Wimbledon aside, which, like, that was the best match from Wimbledon. That match, really, the one that they played. And they're both brave players. I'm really excited to see Amanda Samova, who on paper, I think on the eye test, has been playing the best tennis of this US Open in the women's against the best in the world. That's really, really exciting to me. And it's kind of like, so I think from a tennis perspective, we're going to be treated because we know that Wimbledon match was so good. And like they're going to be smacking the ball as hard as they can. We know Amanda has a history of getting under Aryna's skin. She has a head-to-head in her favour. It's not as crazy as the Ostapenko-Iga matchup, but think of it in terms of, imagine Ostapenko beat Aryna in the quarters and is playing Iga in the final. That's how it
Yeah.
feels to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Amanda playing well um is going to make it exciting. I don't know. I don't want either of them to lose. This is the problem because Aryna, I don't know how she's going to deal with losing 3 Grand Slam finals in a row. Like that she's reached. She won the US Open last year. She reached 3 Grand Slam, 3 out of the 4 finals. If she loses all 3 of them, that's just going to be like, how on earth did that happen? Um, for her, and I'd be a little bit sad for her in that situation because I think the last person I was trying to think of who's done that. Like, I'm not going to count on Jabeur because that's a different scenario altogether. That's just trying to win one. But someone who's
Mhm.
already been successful going on a run like that, I think my mind immediately went to Serena right at the end of her career, like getting to losing 4 finals after coming back from having Olympia.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, we know it was like, oh, come on, is she going to do it? Sabalenka's much younger than Serena was then. There's a set, but it's just going to be like, are you ever going to do it? Like, are you still, having won 3 of these things, still that nervous in a Grand Slam final? And then Amanda, like, are you going to battle the demons of what happened last time you were in a Grand Slam final? Are you going to have to watch that Iga match again? Or are you going to be watching the Arena, maybe watch that back to back with the Arena one you played at Wimbledon to stir some self belief in you? Because if Amanda loses another Grand Slam final back to back, again, my brain's going to go to, oh no, this is on Jabeur vibes. Please no. So I don't particularly want either of them to lose. What I'm excited about is how's Aryna going to deal with this and what kind of tennis is she going to bring in the face of the tennis that Amanda brings? Because here's the thing, when Aryna has beaten Amanda, she goes on and wins tournaments. Obviously, that's what's going to happen this time because it's the final. Usually, the ultimate test of whether Aryna Sabalenka is winning a title and winning big is whether or not she has to deal with Amanda Anisimova on the way. And I think going back to focusing on Aryna, this is going to be the ultimate test and how she's going to step up to the challenge that Amanda Anisimova is going to bring. How is Amanda Anisimova going to handle? I think she did well with kind of dealing with the early dip against Osaka. If they both start slow, you know this match is going to be messy.
Yeah.
It feels really, really big. I think it's one of those ones that could start messy and build into a crazy crescendo. And I'm struggling to see this not going 3 sets.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to watch a good match. I just want this
Yeah.
to just be a really, really good match. They had a really spicy, good one at Wimbledon that was just nip and tuck and was awesome. And for me, the way I see it is like for Arena's sake, I hope she can separate the fact that even though if she loses this, for example, she's still number one in the world and she still got to all of these Grand Slam finals. I understand that that's just me saying it. I know it's quite different if you're there and you're losing all of them. That's quite different, but she's had a really, really great season. But I can imagine that it would be tough, really tough, if she loses, you know, 3 Grand Slam finals.
This is a season defining match from Arena. It's
Yeah.
going to be defined whether it's a really, 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 really great season or just a great season.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's from the Arena side. She just has this thing now with the American crowd. I feel like that's her season. Her season has been Arena versus the Americans. Like, I don't know why, but that's just what her season has been. So we'll see how that goes. And then for Amanda Nisimova, I sat down with her at Charleston, and she said at the time that her goal for the year was to get to the top 10. And at the time, she was nowhere near the top 10. And that's a Meet the Player episode that we have. You can go back and watch it. We have a whole playlist of Meet the Players, and you can go back and take a look at Amanda's episode. And even back then, I was like, that's great. That's such a great goal to have. And I was hoping she got there. So to think that was Charleston in April. And not only has she got back to the top 10, she made it to 2 Grand Slam finals. That's the year. That's really great. But I know probably that's not enough for her. Walking away with that trophy, now that would be the year. And that's probably it's funny because at the time when she said that to me, it was almost like this secret she was telling me. She was like, I don't want to say it out loud, but I would love to get back to the top 10. Almost at the time, I was like, ooh, maybe you don't want to tell me that and you just want to keep that to yourself. You know what I mean? And now I almost thought, oh no, she probably was just holding on to the fact that what she really wanted was a Grand Slam title. And here she is. So.
She can have both. Well, she's going to be top 10 anyway. She's top 4 in the live rankings. She won't go higher than 4th after this, regardless of what happens. I'd say she's likely to be at the WTA finals. She's had a great season regardless. But yeah, is the real secret behind the secret gonna come out?
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Let's see. Either outcome, women's tennis is crushing it. It's just been such a great tournament for women's tennis. And if you're not watching women's tennis, what are you doing? Men's finals, Sincaraz, part 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know. But at least in Grand Slams, this is part 3. And wow. Remember when they hadn't met at a Grand Slam final this year at Roland Garros? And we're like, oh my God, we're so happy to have this moment.
And what a moment it was.
Third time. What a moment it was. That Roland Garros, again, greatest match of all time, guys. Roland Garros. We have a match story on that. I explain why I call it the greatest match of all time. So everyone simmer down. I understand there is the Wimbledon 2008. I know that match exists. Go watch why I call it the greatest match of all time. But yes, I just want it to be good. Their last final, which was the one in Cincinnati, was compromised. Sinner had to withdraw. So as long as it's not that, I think Sinner and Alcaraz, because their style is so contrasting, it is always just kind of good anyway. Because they just have some contrasting styles. So it always produces good tennis. We saw that at Wimbledon. It didn't live up to Roland Garros, but it was still fun. So yeah, I'm excited. If you're in New York, in the Brooklyn area, we will be screening that match. It's our one and only screening of this US Open. So excited for that. But what do you think of this final, Nick?
So I'm not going to predict is going to be the best match they play this year, because Roland Garros exists, and that was something that is lightning in the bottle. Well, not lightning in the bottle, but I don't know we're going to get that again. I don't think you should look for that again. I think your stance of it's going to be fun because it's always fun is the best way of looking at it. You are going to get great tennis regardless, even if it's 4 sets like Wimbledon was. There was some really, really great moments in Wimbledon, and I was so impressed by watching Jannik Sinner in that match. And Carlos, every match they've played, there's been something memorable and noteworthy to say and to enjoy. That's what I'm looking forward to, and that's the moment we're building up for. This is the big franchise that I'm excited for, that I mentioned earlier. But this is going to be the biggest match that they play this year. Even if it's not necessarily the best in terms of quality, it's the biggest. You know why? Because it's their 3rd Grand Slam final. They're in the biggest tennis stadium in the world, and the winner will be ranked world number 1. This is to decide who the best player in the world is. This is to decide who the best player in the world is. And
I totally forgot about the number 1 ranking.
And if they keep within this close to each other, we could get to the point where every match they play could be the decider. This is it. This is one of the very rare Grand Slam finals you get where world number 1 is on the table for both players. Bring it on. This is going to be a seismic moment in tennis, whoever wins. That's why I'm excited for it. In addition to, it's going to be good because it's Sinner and Alcaraz. You're going to see amazing feats of athleticism, of speed, of great ball striking, of inventiveness. Alcaraz brings out Sinner's crazy side, and Sinner forces Alcaraz to focus. And Alcaraz is focused, and Sinner's been a little bit crazy already. What happens when you turn it up to 11? That's going to be the final we're going to get.
Ugh, if you didn't watch the video to see me do my fun, crazy dance, just go watch the video, because I totally forgot about the number 1 race. This match just got even more exciting. Okay, before we hit the 90-minute mark, we're coming to the end here. I just want to say thank you, everybody, because this US Open season has been so crazy. We launched merch, which I'm wearing. I've just been wearing it every day because I love it so much. And why not? Why not just wear it all the time? All of our social media channels, the podcast, everything, all of our numbers have gone up. You guys are loving the content we're putting out there, the podcasts, the explainer videos, everything we're doing. It's been really nice engaging with people online and watching people learn about tennis, talk about tennis, all of that stuff. It's been really, really awesome. And I just wanted to say thank you because it's really awesome engaging with everybody and helping people understand the sport better. It brings Nick and I joy. It just makes us happy. That's the reason why we do this. We started Ground Pass because we wanted to help people understand tennis. Our very first episode is called 40 Love because we wanted to help people learn about how to understand the scoring of tennis. So we wanted to just take this second to say thank you for following along. This is, believe it or not, there is more season of tennis to be had. So we still have a few episodes coming to wrap up the US Open. We are going to do our finals roundup and just a wrap up of the tournament. But then we have Asia. We have so much coming. We have tennis lessons coming. We have so much coming, and I hope you can follow along. Please leave us a comment. Let us know what you've been liking, what you want to see more of, what we can, explain better, because that just helps us focus what we do more. A lot of what we've been doing is just responding to comments. Like a lot of the videos that I put out is just because someone asked. And I was like, oh, okay, great. I'll do that. But yeah, Nick, do you want to say anything?
Thank you for making Ground Pass what it is, which is a proper fans podcast where we talk about what the fans want to talk about. And we're here for the new fans to navigate, and hopefully you enjoy our explainers and we make things clear, and we are nice and easy to listen to and fun. But the interactions we have are what make it great, whether it's you listening or you send us a question. Absolutely love it. So thanks for taking part, and more to come.
Yeah, that's really is the best part. And just remember, it's just tennis. So let's keep it fun and light and joyful. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye.